Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Sorry to the other member, but that's okay. I won't take long. So I know everyone in this parliament is raring to go and get excited on speaking on this legislation because it's exciting and important because, of course, we know full well how important securing the Commonwealth is and how important making sure that we have legislation framework in place to achieve that, particularly in the context of migration and citizenship law is. In particular, having previously served on the Intelligence and Security Committee or the Joint Intelligence and Security Committee, making sure we get the framework of law is right is particularly important because of the increasingly nefarious actors on a global stage who seek to undermine Australia's sovereignty and making sure we've got alignment in our laws with global standards as well as across the state and Commonwealth. But we need to do so in the context of making sure we also do so while protecting people's rights and freedoms. This is one of the ongoing and enduring challenges of being a legislator in the modern age, protecting rights and freedoms while also securing the rights and freedoms of Australians. We've dealt with this a few times in Parliament in recent years, particularly since about 2001, and we're going to continue to do that, particularly in a digital age. And I know there are other issues that are going to arise in the context of artificial intelligence in the years to come. But obviously biometrics and biometric integrity is going to be incredibly important. Anyone who's been through an airport in recent years will know how important having access to a pathway for a smart gate is, but in addition to make sure that the information that's provided through your passport is going to and having it secure is going to be for identity assessment, but also making sure that when the government accesses that information, has it provided to them that it isn't nefariously used by foreign actors. So this part of legislation is another important step in securing the data security of Australians, something we fundamentally believe in, but in addition making sure that when we take these steps that we build the systems necessary to protect Australians. And do so in a relatively bipartisan way because we understand how important these measures are. This legislation does a number of things, including updating biometric definitions and procedures so that systems can be properly designed and clarifying what constitutes a facial image so that it's common sense, especially to ensure that automated systems continue to operate lawfully and efficiently. And I'm not sure if you've been, Deputy Speaker, through an airport recently, but I can assure you that technology is getting better and better by the day, and that's one of the challenges that we're all going to face, not just in Australia but elsewhere. But in doing so, it's also making it faster for citizens to be able to use these services because the technology is getting better in identifying people at the point of the border. The bill also proposes to relax the 180-day residency rule for certain new citizens, and it's reasonable its intent because there are legitimate cases where some aspiring citizens have perfectly justifiable reasons for spending more than a quarter of 2 years prior to applying for Australian citizenship in other countries. Now, we don't believe that this is something that should be done flippantly, Deputy Speaker. I have very deep views about the commitment that new Australians should make if they are to go on the pathways to citizenship. Every few weeks I go to a citizenship ceremony, and I actually hope every member does on a regular basis because it's actually one of the most fulfilling parts of this role, is the opportunity to go and see new Australians, swear them in and be part of that journey. It's actually one of the most uplifting parts of this role as well because despite the number of things or challenges you have to face, when you get to be part of a new Australian's journey into the Australian community, it is not just uplifting, it's not just fulfilling, it brings you an incredible amount of joy. But they have to make a commitment, not just in oath, but in deed, of loyalty to this country, and it's what we should expect of new Australians because we want new Australians to become full participants in the Australian way of life, to become integrated socially, culturally, economically, so that they're contributors to the country, but in addition to that, that they continue out the social licence for others to continue to be part of the social fabric of our country. And while the current test for becoming a citizen has a time frame, the expectation is people are here and that they stay here, but in the modern world, increasingly that is becoming more tested and more challenged for lots of different reasons: professional reasons, personal reasons, family reasons, sporting reasons, So there has to be appropriate flexibility in the context of when those issues arise. And I know this periodically does come up with constituents who want to go on the pathway to citizenship and find it difficult to do so because of the current structure of laws and the need to provide some modicum of flexibility, particularly for people who have very professional pathways, professional employment pathways, and need a certain degree of flexibility. And I completely get that. And so I think we just need to be mindful of the need to provide some component of flexibility in doing so. So Australians need confidence in the system. New Australians need pathways to be able to realise their dreams of becoming part of the Australian family, but we need to do so in a way that maintains integrity so that when people become Australian citizens, they do so with the confidence of Australians who are born here, Australians who have chosen here, but of course a system of integrity so that they hand on to the next generation of Australians who choose our wonderful country as part of a future where it continues to be welcoming for others, because we know full well the consequences of when we lose control of our borders, when we have illegal migration, and when Australian people lose confidence, which includes people born here, including new Australians and including those people who have chosen to live here. When that doesn't happen, it becomes a backlash against continuing support for legal and illegal migration. So while this measure it may seem non-controversial to many people, it fits as part of the legislative tapestry that's necessary to maintain public confidence of our border security. It's part of the legislative tapestry of what we need to maintain social licence for our migration program, and more importantly for the pathways to citizenship, so that we can continue to build the type of country that we want to be, one where people feel invested, a sense of ownership, and part of the Australian community and family, so that we can hand it on with the greatest sense of stewardship to the next generation and for future generations to come. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.